When people hear lake property, they imagine glass walls, polished docks, speedboats, and champagne sunsets. This was not that. What I bought sat at the far end of Lake Briarwood, where the water turned darker and the shoreline twisted into wild reeds and old trees. The shack looked like it had survived 3 hurricanes and lost to all of them. The roof sagged. The porch leaned. The windows were cracked or missing entirely. There was no driveway, no landscaping, no dock worth mentioning. Just a dirt path, weeds taller than my waist, and a hand-painted sign that said, "For sale is. Price, 5 yokosuarus." Yes, $5. The HOA board called it an eyesore. The neighbors called it a hazard. The real estate agent called it unsellable. And I called it mine. The shack had been abandoned for nearly 15 years. The original owner died with no family willing to touch it. The HOA wanted it gone, but couldn't legally seize it. Taxes were unpaid. The structure was uninhabitable, and the land technically sat just outside the HOA's mapped boundary. That last part mattered a lot. The city just wanted someone, anyone, to assume liability. So they offered it for $5, plus back taxes. The HOA thought no one would ever buy it. They were wrong. The day I showed up with my truck, the entire street seemed to pause. Garage doors stopped halfway. Lawnmowers went silent. Phones came out. I heard laughter before I even stepped out of the cab. One man leaned over his fence and said, "You know that place is condemned, right?" Another woman laughed openly and added, "Must be desperate." But the HOA president, she walked right up to me. Perfect hair, pressed blazer, clipboard in hand. She smiled, not kindly but sharply. "I'm just letting you know," she said. "That shack violates at least 12 HOA codes." I replied calmly, "I'm not in the HOA." Her smile froze. That's when her tone changed. "You will be," she said. "Sooner or later." She warned me about permits, about inspections, about community standards. She warned me I'd never get approval for renovations. She warned me I was throwing my money away. Then she laughed. "People like you don't last here." I nodded and started cleaning. What the HOA didn't know, what the neighbors didn't know, was that I wasn't guessing. I wasn't gambling. I had spent 2 years researching lakefront properties. I knew the city was planning a massive environmental restoration project. I knew a private developer was quietly buying shoreline access nearby. And most importantly, I knew that this shack sat on the only unrestricted lake access point left on that side of the water. No HOA control, no shared easements, no zoning limitations, just land. The first 6 months were brutal. I tore out moldy walls, replaced rotten beams, cleared decades of trash. The HOA called inspectors weekly. Noise complaints, safety complaints, visual disruption complaints. Every time the inspectors found nothing illegal. And every time they left, the HOA president stood nearby, furious. Slowly, things changed. The shack stopped leaning. The roof straightened. The windows gleamed. I built a real dock, nothing flashy, just solid. Then came the deck. Then the solar panels. Then the landscaping. People stopped laughing. They started watching. 2 years later, the announcement came. Lake Briarwood was being rezoned as a luxury recreational district. New marinas, private resorts, high-end developments. Property values tripled overnight, then quadrupled, then exploded. My little shack, appraised at $5 million, that's when the HOA president showed up again. This time she smiled sweetly. "We'd like to discuss incorporating your property into the community." I laughed. She didn't. They tried everything. Claimed historical oversight, filed boundary disputes, sent legal letters weekly. One even accused me of illegally exploiting community resources. The same people who laughed now wanted a piece. At the city council meeting, the HOA made their move. They argued the land should revert to community stewardship. They argued my improvements unfairly benefited from nearby HOA infrastructure. Then it was my turn. I stood, presented documents, maps, contracts, years of research. The room went silent. The council ruled in my favor, unanimously. The HOA president didn't look at me as she left. She didn't have to, because everyone else was. Today that lake shack still stands. Stronger, more beautiful, and entirely mine. The HOA? They never laughed again. They laughed when I bought a $5 lake shack. They tried to steal it when it became worth $5 million. And they failed, because they underestimated the wrong person. If you enjoyed this story, like, subscribe, and comment below. Because sometimes, the best revenge is patience.